Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 73rd episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. I entitled this video Pong, which is a title that will become clear as I go into the contents. And I think this video is going to be rather short because I'm just going to basically correct a wrong interpretation of the graph that I drew in the last video, video 72, and rectify one of my basic assumptions. So, the beginning is fine. Singularity beyond concept that splits into two consciousnesses, nothing and everything. And then the reality is always a blend between those two consciousnesses. But does infinity, why would infinity start from a unconscious multiverse or an unconscious state? I actually believe now that infinity would start here from the full conscious state, that is, omniscience and omnipotence, all powerful, all knowing. And infinity then descends again towards nothingness by forgetfulness, and goes all the way down. And so you have a downward, one spiral that goes down. Let's illustrate it with this green thing, like this. And one spiral that goes up, which is nothingness towards remembering, going up. And you have, again, this orange line that I drew. And indeed, you have, that's where time flows infinitely fast in both directions, from infinity towards nothingness in forgetting instantly who you are, and from nothingness towards infinity, remembering instantly who you are with no experience in between. But it would make no sense that you'd start from infinity, but infinity as in not knowing what it is. Then it would be too similar to nothingness, actually. So, in a sense, you could say that both then sort of cross-fertilize, and both are attracted by that which they are not at a certain point in well, not really time, but their level of consciousness. Like, once you're omniscient and omnipotent, the mystery for you, the thing that you want to experience most, is not being that which you are, that is omniscient and omnipotent. And once you're nothing, then you also want to sort of experience that which you are not, which is everything, from your nothing vantage point. And the reason I call this video Pong is that it reminds me of the oldest video game of all time, which is Pong, where you have this ball that sort of bounces between two little cursors. And it's almost as if it's the oldest game ever invented, period, because ultimately reality or existence is just this ball, or balls, plural, which probably form a kind of a neural network, which just bounces between infinity and nothingness constantly, because whenever a ball reaches infinity, reaches omnipotence, omniscience, at some point in, well, there's no real time in there, so at some point it will just bounce back and want to go bounce off of nothingness again, and vice versa. And then some balls stay in the middle for some time before they sort of go are attracted towards one end or the other end. Just like when you take a break on a long trip and stop following your GPS, you just go, oh, let's go take a detour towards the beach, and then let's resume our journey. And that's also sometimes what you read when you have beings that say that they voluntarily sort of wanted to reincarnate or to help humanity evolve or whatever, instead of ascending all the time. You have these movements here where you can just basically stall for a while and then you go for towards one or the other. In any case, I hope that clarifies things, because it's true that now that I think about it, it doesn't really make sense that infinity would start from an unconscious state. So you have a movement of consciousness going towards unconsciousness, and unconsciousness going towards consciousness. So a two-way process of forgetting, remembering, remembering, forgetting. So I hope that clarifies things a bit. Um, and again, feel free to comment if you have any questions. And I'm very glad to have named this series Spiritual Brainstorm, because obviously, as you've just found out, my thinking evolves as this series advances, and previous videos are maybe no longer um, the most refined sort of version of how the universe functions, even if, as a reminder, um, which is really important, is that ultimately, it's not really that my previous videos are false. It's just that they are, again, a limited bubble within infinity. And any model, any way of understanding the universe is a self-contained bubble that eventually will pop at some point and become bigger. And just like materialism isn't false, it's just that it is one bubble that is even more restrictive of what can be experienced within infinity. You could say this is materialism. And so you could say that in my previous video, my bubble was this big. And then when you revise the way that I explain things, or when I revise my own ideas, then the bubble just expands a little bit towards something more just broader, that makes more sense. And that's it. So that's also something to be important to be reminded, because ultimately, perhaps some people will not like the new bubble that I've sort of created by making a model. They would prefer a previous bubble of one of my earlier videos. And that is absolutely fine, because ultimately what's the whole point is for consciousness to always be in a bubble that fits its level of understanding and consciousness. So if, to give you an example, for instance, if your beliefs and your model of the universe is too advanced compared to your level of consciousness, there is a great risk that you will self-destruct. Like, you will have access to technologies and things that are way beyond your level of consciousness, and you're likely to self-destruct. If your level of conscious, if your belief system is too restrictive compared to your level of consciousness, then you have stagnation, where you basically don't advance, and you have stasis, and that's not something that happens ever in the universe. Everything is constantly in movement and in change, and so it will sort of, something will happen to you, like an asteroid will fall from the sky, or a calamity, or something will sort of nudge you into shifting. So I hope this was interesting, and talk to you in the next video.